The turning point for me was realizing this. Great mixes are not about stacking tools. They're about making bold, clear decisions and knowing when not to touch something in the mix. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a recent jazz mix that I did and how I got it to sit in the pocket without throwing every plugin at it. Hopefully by the end, you'll learn how to trust your ears more than your plugin folder. Let's get into it. So here I have a session pulled up. The track name is called Autumn in New York, and I'll play the demo mix and then I'll play the final mix. So I'll jump in the middle of the section. You'll hear the demo mix first. Let's check this out. That just sounds lovely. The arrangement, the orchestration, the instrumentation, and you guys will hear the voice in a minute, just sounds absolutely well put together. So my job as a mixer was not to rebuild the wheel, but it was to maximize the clarity of the performance from the strings, woodwind instruments, brass, piano, bass, drums, and the lead vocalist. So in this mix, I have all the drums, which are red, bass, black, and then I have all the music tracks, which are basically the horns, brass, strings, and then the piano here at the end. And if you guys notice, I'm using 3 reverbs basically for the entire mix. I'm using this one right here, which is called B1. I'll show you guys the assignment in a minute. For really just the strings, I'm using B2 or Aux2 for piano, horns, the horn groups, the woodwind instruments, and then I'm using C1 for the lead voice, which is just that. So by limiting myself to maximize the use of 3 different types of spaces, I was able to get those spaces more integrated with the instrument so that it sounded like everything was recorded and coming back playing live from the same space. The first reverb return is an instrument room, the second one is an instrument hall, and the third one is a vocal hall. For these types of reverbs where they are natural spaces, I rely heavily on the Eventide H9000. The Eventide H9000 is a DSP box. I use it with a Dante card, so I have up to 32 available effects, which is crazy. And so I only use 3 stereo reverbs, but this is what they are. The first one is a 2016. You guys can find the 2016 Eventide reverb as a plugin. And this is the DSP version, Modern Room. I'll solve that in a minute. The second reverb that I used was a hall, and I don't know what this necessarily emulates, but I dialed it in to what it sounded like good to me. And then the third one, which was for the lead voice, is this one right here, an EMT 140 plate with a pre-delay at 82 milliseconds and a 1 second delay. And by combining these 3 types of reverbs and sending different instruments to them, I was able to get the track more glued together without having to stack delays or harmonizers or reverbs on individual channels. So by being very deliberate about the space types or space rooms that I'm using in the mix, I was able to send multiple types of instruments, small amounts of that to the reverbs so that it can glue the track together and make the band, make the instruments sound like they're coming from the same physical space. Let's go ahead and check these out in isolation. Cool, so the first one that I want to draw attention to is this instrument room, which is the Eventide 2016. And I have the assignment set to strings, and that's basically it, just the strings. When I solo the strings, you guys are going to hear how the strings set to a send of 0, basically at unity. I'm really feeding a lot of the strings into this reverb and using a little bit of filtering and a little bit of widening to get it to play in the mix. But let me go ahead and solo that for you guys so you guys can hear that. That just sounds lovely. Now what I'll do is I'll use my fader here on my control surface to bring down the reverb return of the 2016, the room reverb, and then I'll bring it back up. That way you guys can hear the strings with the reverb and without. Here we go. Let's undo that and bring it down. And that right there gave me a couple of things. It allowed me to have more width, and it also allowed me to have a type of EQ because the room adds some tonality to the strings. So now the dry strings and the strings through the room create this sonic texture that works together in the mix. And I did a couple of other things on the reverb returns. Let me show you what that is. Number one, I put a stereo widener on that. This is the PSP stereo controller. There's a preset right here called widener, and I rely on that a lot. And it just basically took the reverb and spread it out a little bit more between the left and the right speaker. And then I'm using a small amount of filtering on the top end. But let me play the strings along with the piano so you guys can hear that in context, because in this section of the song, it's basically a waltz. Okay, the piano and the strings are really just dancing together. Let's check that out. And that just sounds lovely. That sounds very, very, very nice. All right, so that's one of the three reverbs. Let's check out the vocal reverb. So we'll jump into the verse and I'll go ahead and just solo the voice so you guys can actually hear what that sounds like. And for that one, I am using the EMT 140 plate. Basically 3 parameters. You have decay, pre-delay, and room size. You don't really get a whole lot of control, but there's a texture and a sound of it that just sounds really, really good. So let's go ahead and play that, and I'll use this fader right here to bring down the reverb return, and I'll bring it back up. Here we go.
Autumn in New York, why does it seem so inviting? Autumn in New York, it spells the thrill of first nighting.
And what I love about this reverb is that it adds body, it adds depth, but it doesn't muddy up the mix. It also sounds a little vintage, old school, which fit the song perfectly. Now, there's a couple of things that I did on that vocal reverb. First of all, I put a de-esser to catch and basically shave off the S's so that it doesn't sizzle around. And then again, I put a filter after the reverb, but not much. I mean, basically that's the whole mix right there, just using that much of a reverb on the vocal chain. And then there's B2, which is a hall, and let's check it out. So that's going to the horn groups, 1, 2, and 3. So if I solo all the horn groups, I'll be able to play that for you guys, and you'll be able to hear that's going through a hall reverb. Let's go ahead and check that out. Oh man, that just sounds so good. And really what I want you guys to take away from this example is it pays off when you dial in your verbs. It pays off when you choose the reverb type, whether it's hall or room or plate or chamber or an EMT plate. It pays off on dialing in the pre-delay. It pays off on dialing in the decay. It pays off on dialing in the tone, because when you get those things right in the mix and they work hand in hand with those instruments, it's almost as if they were part of the recording, and that becomes a sort of EQ for the instruments, where you don't really have to stack plugins and kind of, I don't know, get things to cut through the mix, because the spatialness of the reverbs work hand in hand with the source tracks, which are the dry instruments. So really, that's basically the reverbs that was like, I would think in this mix was like 60 to 80% of the sonic sound of the mix. If you look at these plugins, I have all the horns going to a group, and there's not a lot. There's a low shelf boost, there's a filter. Over here, basically the same thing, or a little bit more, because the strings, I'm controlling the frequencies with the dynamic EQ. But there's not like stacks and stacks of plugins on these instrument tracks. Number one, they're recorded really well. Secondly, they were played by awesome musicians. And thirdly, it was just really about matching them to the corresponding reverb spaces so that they sit in the mix. I'll play all this together so you guys can hear what it sounds like in context.
Autumn in New York, why does it seem so inviting? Autumn in New York, it spells the thrill of first nighting. Glittering crowds and shimmering clouds in canyons of steel.
Yeah, that sounds really, really nice. If you're chasing clean musical mixes, sometimes the best thing to do is less, but do it with purpose. All right, guys, that's all the time that we have for this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you can check out awesome content like this. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below. My name is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. Thank you guys so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.